Welcome to the Spirit of Business, where businesses learn to thrive. I am your host, Jamie Pritchard, mortgage agent with Mortgage Guys, and today I have with me Trevor Wright, who does financial wellness differently, and I'm looking forward to the interview. Now, Trevor, one of the things that I understand, you have a podcast, and what's that podcast called?
It's called Financial Wellness Done Differently in Shorts and Sandals.
So I have to ask, can you stand up? Are you in shorts and sandals?
Of course. Shorts.
Oh, okay.
Not quite sandals, but close enough.
That's good. Because I have a little something to reveal to you as well.
Oh, no.
Look
at the trend.
I'm showing a little skin and some sandals. I thought I would do this interview in shorts and sandals. So you're the only person I know besides my eldest son that wears shorts and sandals throughout the year. I think, is there a limit that you have? Like, once it gets below -15 or anything?
Generally, it all depends. If I get icicles on the hair on my legs, then I realize it's time to start wearing pants.
Oh, okay. Good. So, Trevor, you're in the financial wellness business. You've been doing that for 10 years. What compelled you to get into this business?
Well, it's actually pretty interesting. My sister used to call me Little Alex Keaton from the show Family Ties. Because even when I was in elementary school and high school, I always wanted to get into something.
I love that show.
Oh, yeah. It was great. And I actually had an investment club at school. We would
Really?
read the report on business on Globe and Mail, in the Globe and Mail every morning. And one of the first companies that we really started looking at was called International Thompson, which has since become the largest newspaper news magnet in the world. And they eventually became Reuters Thompson. So we actually looked at buying stocks with them, and then also with Maple Leaf Enterprises.
So you bought these with your sister. You were, 7 years old?
No, we would have been 15 and 16 at the time, like this group of us. But
Okay. Wow. That's fascinating. So you started early on, and it was something that was just part of you.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, my father's a chartered accountant, so I got the kind of love of numbers and money, learning how to deal with money at a very young age. So.
Okay, so you were born into the right family for your skill set.
Yeah, in more than one way. The right family.
The right family, yes, of course. So what I'm curious about, before you got into your business, Wright Wealth Services, financial services, what were you doing before that?
Well, when I was in high school, I worked at a grocery store, and then I'd always wanted to kind of own my own business. So just the day before my 20th birthday, I bought a Subway restaurant and ran them for 18 years.
Wow.
And during all that time, there's so many other little things I wanted to do. I'd have kids that work for me come up and say, "Oh, I want you to do this," and take $25 extra a week off my paycheck so that I can get money back from the government each year. And I would say, well, go to an investment person, put $25 a week into an RSP, and then you'll still get money back, and then you'll have savings. Okay. So I would still be giving people thoughts and my opinions on stuff like that, even with the Subways. But it was a great run of 18 years, had a lot of fun. We sold them at the right time. Really enjoyed it, the sale.
Yeah.
To relax a lot. Took a well-earned vacation, and took a few years off trying to decide really what I wanted to do, and doing the education for this, and thought, well, now that I've got all the courses and such, I guess I should get a job in it. But I never really wanted to work for somebody else.
Right.
From 20, I was self-employed, so
okay,
that's what I did. I got into my own business.
So I'm curious, the decision to go into a Subway. I'm a formal small business advisor through a big bank, and I know one of the things that I've always found is the food services industry is a very tough industry. to get into, especially a franchise. And I find a lot of people tend to buy a job, if you will, and aren't successful or don't realize the amount of work it takes. So you had an affinity for investments and everything. Why not get into something in investments? Why did you choose to go into Subway?
It's funny. The grocery store I worked at, I would be there till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, just working. And there was a little Subway that was open right beside us. And I would go out, have a bit of a break and just catch some fresh air. And the guy that owned the Subway would come out and we'd start talking. We'd end up going out for a couple of beers every so often. He had a silent partner. And he said, you know what, my business has done so well, I think I really need a working partner. Maybe you should buy out my silent partner. So then that put the wheels into motion. And I think the thing about franchising is that it's a great way to start a business. And there's a reason, good franchises. There's some bad ones out there. There's some good ones. So due diligence always needs to be put into place. And that's why the Arthur Wishart Act came out many, many years ago. But if you find that it's something that fits and it's got a really good plan in place, a program in place, it'll work. Like our first Subway store was number 3028. We were one of the first 25 or 30 in Canada.
Wow.
The last rights that I bought was like 47793. So that kind of shows how much it had grown. So we got in right at the ground floor, and we were there to kind of like always be sure that the franchisor is willing to accept input.
Right.
Because our head office for Subway was in the States, and we would have our own advertising fund. Like every store in the area would put in a certain percentage, and we'd have this advertising fund. And I remember one time the advertising trust down in the States said, well, we want to take care of the national advertising for Canada. And we said, oh, that's a great idea. They said, yeah, maybe we'll do halftime on Hockey Night in Canada. And it was at that point we decided you're not going to take care of our national advertising. So we took it upon us, and we actually started up with our Canadian National Advertising Trust. So as long as the franchisor is willing to accept some give and take, and of course get some legal advice when you're talking about it too. I think it works because there's a reason why there's more than 25 stores or 25 of a certain thing. It's because it's the plan and the programs and put in place, and it'll work all the way through as long as you are willing to do it. And you're right, the number of hours that you work, you're not buying a 40-hour-a-week job. You're buying a 60, 70, 80-hour-a-week job. I at one point when I first took over the one up in Orangeville, probably 105 to 110 hours a week I was working.
Wow.
But it was fun because I enjoyed doing it.
And I did find of the customers that I had from you spoke about a good franchise, that all of the Subway owners that I had that started in sort of the 90s or early 2000s and everything were very successful, and I think that speaks to the franchise. If for listeners that might be considering a franchise, what would be the top 3 things you might recommend that you need to look for before deciding?
Oh, good one. One thing is talk to other franchisees and see how they've been able to deal with the franchisor and what's there. There's great disclosure that has to be provided to franchisees now or potential franchisees. So look at that. A lot of times, like right at the very back of the disclosure is all the lawsuits that are in for or pending or anything like that. Just see what's there. A lot of times it could just be somebody that just, I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, or they didn't do well.
Right.
It's just the way that some people are. See if you can talk to the owner of the franchise or the head franchisor, because he'd always have a little bit, and see why he's doing what he's doing.
Right.
Everybody uses this find your why, but I always ask somebody like what's the real reason that you're doing what you're doing? Like if somebody, like my parents got involved in a franchise many, many years ago, that after about 6 months to a year, you kind of realize that they're really just doing it to make money and move product. They didn't care about the people who were buying the product from them and putting them in the retail stores. Right. So find out what the reasoning behind this person doing this and why they started it. You see it in the investment world too. It's like, a little bit of an aside. is there's a company that says, well, we make billions of dollars a year, but we want to take $25,000 from each of you 25 people in this room so we can put it into a company and build that company up. And we're thinking, well, why would you need our money if you're making that much money?
Yeah.
So it's the same sort of thing with a franchisor. If they try and bring themselves out as being really super and ultra successful, you got to wonder, why are they successful and how are they doing it? Is it on the backs of other people, or is it working with other people?
So speak to the franchise owners and speak to the area director or head owner. Anything else?
Go and visit. When I was, something as simple as when I was hiring people at Subway, the first question I would ask is, have you ever had a Subway sub? And if they said no, I would just kind of look at them and say, well, today's your opportunity to try it. And if they said yes, then we're almost hired right away. But
right.
But, you want to make sure it's a good fit. And if I go into a place and say it's a restaurant, it's like, geez, I don't really like any of this food. Why would I want to be a franchisor or franchisee of it?
Right.
Or if I go into a clothing store and they're playing loud music and they have clothes that I wouldn't even put onto my daughter, why would you really want to be part of it? So make sure it's something that fits you as well as something that works.
Okay, so 10 years ago, you had a decision that you wanted to get out of the business and get into back into the financial wellness. What compelled you to do that?
Well, it was would have been 2007, so actually 13 years ago now that we sold them. But it was I don't want to say it, but the right time. But I think it was really the right time. You can see a lot of different things coming about with Subway at the time. The values have gone up. You couldn't buy an existing store, or you couldn't build a new store unless you owned an existing store. So that kind of brought up the value a little bit more.
Right.
I thought that we'd maybe reached peak potential of what Subways were worldwide. I think at the time we had about 42 or 44,000 stores open around the world. So it was the largest franchise in the world. And just some of the management things that were going on that kind of fell back into a hole that we just, it's not that we didn't like it, because heck, we're really still successful, 7 figures in sales on a regular basis per year. So it was great, but there's a group, the way I built it up, I wanted to have my own market. So if somebody wanted to come and buy one of the stores, they could buy all of them. Yeah. And this group came up and said, well, we want to buy all your restaurants. And I said, well, I've got one in development. I've got another one that's sitting here waiting to be developed. Do you guys want to take them all? And they said, yes, we do. So they offered me an amount, and I said, that's not what I want. I offered them another one. We just went back and forth, and I think it was great for them.
Yep.
They thought it was great and I thought it was great for me. Everything just worked out. We had to, every 4 months they would take over, every 3 months they would take over one store, because Subway wanted to be sure that they could handle operating them. And it was done in the course of about a year and a bit.
Good. And then you got into the financial wellness and back to sort of your roots and what you like to do. And I'm wondering, what one thing do you wish you would have known when you began the business?
What one thing do I wish I would have known when I began in this business? I wish I would have known a little bit more about how it works, like the background of it. I've got the financial planning pyramid. All the things that are really important. I've got insurance, investments, and everything else. But it's the background and the back office systems and the way they worked. I don't want to say I was kind of duped, but the very first company that I got involved with kind of said, well, this is what we are and this is what we can do for you. And it just didn't seem that way. And I didn't realize it was so easy to kind of say, well, I don't really like this company that I'm dealing with. They're not doing what I expect them to do. I want to move. And which I did after about a year and a bit. But then I started learning more and more about how the whole industry worked and how the wheels worked and everything else. And I think it would have been nice to know, because you see all these different people that are in these different financial companies saying, come work for us. You can do part-time. You can do this. You can do that. You can help us out. And you can keep your job and you can do all these. But these people don't realize that they're getting involved in this, that the people that are saying, come and work for us, are actually going to make a ton of money off of you. Yeah. And probably 3 times more than what you're making. So if you sell an insurance policy and you make $500, this person that brought you in is probably going to make 1,500. Whereas if you knew that in advance, you'd be able to say, well, hold on a sec. It's really something I want to get into, but maybe I should do it this way. And instead of you making the 500 and then making 1,500, you make your $1,500, and nobody else makes anything after that. Right. So it's learning and knowing that independence was actually a lot easier than I thought it could be.
You mentioned one thing about not realizing that you were at choice. One of the things I have, looking back on it, that I kind of struggled with. I worked in the corporate world for a long time, so I was used to things being done for me or being told. And I did find there was a bit of a challenge for the first few months, realizing that it was all on me. I can choose who I want to deal with, the types of clients that I want, and most importantly, I can say no to people, and I can say no to lenders. Was that a bit much like the same process that you went through and realized, hey, I'm in control?
Yeah, I think when I actually gained the true independence, it really gave me that thought. It's like, if I don't want to have to put business through that company, I don't have to. I can actually do what's best for my clients and put it through this company.
Right.
Because they may not have the lowest price, but they may have some of the better offers. They may have some of the better things that you can do for people. Whereas with some of the other ones, it's like, no, you have to put it through here. So yeah, it's the independence and being able to make your own decisions. Right. And it's like, well, I don't feel like going in at 9 o'clock this morning, so I don't.
So you've been in this for 10 years, and I know over the last couple of years you have really started to rethink your the financial model in general and how you serve your clients. What's the one thing that keeps you successful, or that you've always been focused on?
Oh, well, I'm always focused on the client, which in this business, in any business, you should be. But I'm really dedicated to making sure that they can get to the future of the vision that they actually made up. So when we talk, it's like, well, where do you want to be in 10 years? Or if we were to sit down in 15 years and talk about where you've come from, are you going to be happy?
Right.
So it's creating the vision and creating the plan for them as to where they're going to be. And really when we talk, it has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with insurance. It says, take off your blinders, close your eyes, and breathe. Now, where do you want to be in 15 years? And then in order for us to see if this is successful, if we're sitting 15 years from now, did we get to where we want to be? So it's really being there to guide them.
Now, do you find a lot of clients find because that's a different approach? I mean, I worked at a bank, and the bank has models and things that the representatives and advisors put in front of them, and they probably have 10 times as many clients that they can actually deal with, and they spend minutes dealing with that. So your approach, talking about the vision, that sounds different. What kind of reaction do you get to that?
They think I'm friggin' nuts.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I took one client outside one time and said, okay, take your shoes and socks off. Of course, I only had to take my sandals off. And said, let's go stand on the grass. And said, well, why are we going to stand on the grass? I said, so we can be grounded. I said, what do you mean grounded? I said, well, one of the first things that they do when they put hydro to your house is they get this copper cable and it goes into the ground and it grounds you. I said, so the ground actually has some type of healing power for us. So let's go stand on the grass. So we sit on the grass. And they go, okay, well, now what do I do? I said, close your eyes. So they closed your eyes. I said, okay, now breathe in through your nose. So they breathed in through their nose and they said, okay, what now? I said, what did you smell? And they said, I smelled the beach. But we were in their backyard.
Right.
I said, so where do you want to be now? I said, I really want to be on the beach. I said, all right now. And then we just kind of carry on from that. So yeah, people think I'm nuts.
So, Trevor, are you a Buddhist monk, or have you had some Buddha? It sounds like you've had some teaching from the Dalai Lama or something.
I am getting some work. Yeah.
Okay.
There are a lot of different things I practice. Here's one of them. It's the code of the extraordinary mind. Vishen Lakhiani. He's a wonderful teacher. And
right.
I've been learning a lot from him. I've been learning a lot through the Bob Proctor program, like thinking into results and such, but
Yeah.
just expanding on all of that. It's unbelievable what I've been learning. I actually bought Charles Darwin's book.
The Origin of Species?
Yep.
Okay.
Read and learn more about his thoughts on this. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. So you truly start with a vision for the client. So after they get over that was kind of weird. How does this fit into my financial plan? How many of your clients, I'm curious, does that kind of lock them in? And as you start to go through the financial plan, do most people follow what you're suggesting, or other people do, like, they put their money in and okay, yeah, fine. And 5 years later you check on and they haven't made much changes?
It kind of, there's some go one way, some go the other way. A lot of the times, like I stay in contact with them. I probably have 8 to 10 contacts a year with each client.
8 to 10 contacts.
Yeah. Not necessarily phone calls or such, but
right.
We have newsletters that go out quarterly. I've got electronic newsletters, paper newsletters. Okay. They get a lot of information from us, statements that go out, and all these other things. I want to contact them more. I think I should be calling each client at least once a year, twice a year to say, hey, how's it going? So that's one thing I really want to build up, and I'm getting to that point. Most of the times, like just like you said, that you could choose your clients when you're on your own. It's not just your institution sending it people.
Right.
Is it by doing these sort of things that also, and that's what I tell people with the first meeting that we have. We'll sit for half an hour. At 35-minute point, you can kick me out of the house if you want to. I said, but if I'm still there after 35 minutes, it's because you're actually interested in what we're talking about. Right. So if I'm still there after 35 minutes, and to this point, I've never been kicked out of somebody's house yet.
Okay.
So it must be working. So if we're still there and talking, they're almost just saying, okay, let me just, whatever you want us to do, we'll do.
Wow.
So, and whether they talk or call once a year, once every 3 or 4 years, they're still hearing from me, but we're still also, like, I'm the one taking care of things for them, and they just have that faith and trust in me to do that.
Okay. What's your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it?
My biggest failure, I think it's not getting professional help when I needed it, or like wearing too many hats at once.
Okay. I'm a bit worried there. Like you meant psychological help. I know that might be, some people that know you well might question that. So okay. So you're wearing too many. Go ahead.
See, I lucked out because my father was a chartered accountant. So right. He gave me some guidance with bookkeeping and stuff, but then I took care of the marketing. I took care of this. I took care of that. I took care of all these other things. And this just goes back to Subway days, but I've been able to carry it through to what I'm doing now.
Right.
So when we opened up the second store, I realized, well, I can't be doing all of this. So I hired managers for all the stores, and my managers' jobs were to make sure that the business was run right. And my job was to make sure that we had customers keep coming in. So I kind of took off from the operations and just started doing all the marketing.
Right.
And that was the fun point. And even in this business I'm doing now, I was doing so much myself. And then I realized, I can't really do all the advertising myself. I'll let somebody else do that. I'm getting to the point now I'm going to have somebody do all the paperwork for me. I like doing the paperwork. Oddly enough, that's just one of my things. Right. Because if there's a mistake made, I can blame myself. But I am going to start passing that off to somebody else to do all the the research and the background stuff and the paperwork and that. Because I've realized I can't do it all myself. And I found that I've grown more in the last year, a year and a half since I brought on my own marketing team. There's 3 people that take care of the marketing stuff. And I have a feeling I'll grow probably just as much as I did in the last year by having somebody else do my administration work too. So take off some of the hats and wash them first and give them to somebody else. Because even though it's going to cost you money, I had somebody actually explain that to me once. He was an accountant, and it was an electrician that said, well, I'm not sure if I want to spend $150 a month on a bookkeeper. And the accountant said, well, so you think instead of you going out and doing a 2-hour job, you should stay at home and do the bookkeeping? And the guy said, well, no, because I'll make more in a 2-hour job probably. I said, well, what do you think? So...
There you go. So you have found that outsourcing, one of the things this isn't mine, but I think I picked it up from somewhere. When I was a business advisor, one of the things that I told clients is that the best thing you can do is do what you do best and outsource the rest. And much like you said, I told them, like, what does it cost you to, how much money, if you were to do something or put an hourly figure on what you do and, charge somebody the real hour that you would do, most people would say, oh, it'd be about $200 to $250. So the $50 or the $100 that you're paying for this, like, it's a no-brainer. You need to, and I find much the same thing. I have started to do some of that, and it's great to know that it's being looked after and that I can focus more on what I do, which is helping people with mortgages. So that's fantastic. What advice would you give somebody trying to get into this industry, especially now with all the nonsense and chaos and everything going on in the world?
Into my industry?
Yes.
Be prepared.
For what?
It's interesting. I got into the industry when a lot of things were changing and a lot of stuff was hitting the fans.
Right.
And some things I wasn't too happy with. Some things I thought was great and then the longer I'm in the industry, I realize there are people that have been in it for 40 years that are still sitting there doing nothing, making a sale and getting paid for it than something that was 40 years ago that they did it. So you knew that something had to change with the way the industry was, and it has changed. I probably got to my 10th year in this industry because I had a lot of backing behind me. When I sold the restaurants, we had, I was told, be prepared not to make money for a while. And we were lucky that we had the money from the sale of the businesses to be able to kind of carry us through. Had I thought about it, I would have had somebody professionally manage that money, and it might have lasted longer, because as much as you like to think that you don't really know everything. I know now, and again, if I knew then what I know now, who knows? But it's a lot of things. You'd be prepared, because there's going to be a couple of years that are tough, and you're going to get, and just like life, there's going to be some tough years, there's going to be some great years. Yeah. But you know that they're all going to come back. And as long as you, just like I talk with my clients, as long as you have this vision and you have this focus, this is where I want to be in 15 years, right, it's really going to help you through. But there are some pretty lean years financially. You have a wife and 2 kids, and you've got a $22,000 income. It's like, holy crap. But you had a whole bunch of money still there. So you knew that you were able to subsidize your way through it. Okay. Tough in the early years, but it's okay now.
Okay. And what's one myth about your industry that you'd like to debunk? Just one.
Well, it's funny. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about fees. And when it comes to this industry, yes, you can get cheap fees. You can go the ETF route. I've got clients that do ETFs and use them and such. Right. And then you can go up a little bit higher to more things, and a little bit higher to get some more guarantees. It all depends how much work you want to do on it. And fees really aren't the only thing that affects the performance of your investments, especially the investment side. The other thing we want to watch out for, and this is just the whole thing, is that don't look at what you're paying for something, look at the value you're getting for something.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, if I say you can go and get an ETF for 0.3% per year as an annual fee, or you can come with me and get 2% per year per annual fee, are you going to get the guidance from a professional advisor? Are you going to have somebody that's there if you have an issue with something? Or are you going to have to go on and try and log on? And I've seen it because I've helped clients set up their own ETF accounts with different companies. So you're going to try and remember your password. You're going to actually have time to it. I've one that put money into their cash account on their thing. And I said, okay, so once every couple of months, just take some and put it into these 3 ETFs that we talked about. I said, okay, sure. This was a year ago. Guess how much money is still in their cash account? The whole amount. Right. So who cares if you're paying 0.3%? Because guess what? You just lost 30% of growth.
Well, and not only that, having somebody that stands on their front lawn and helps them see a beach. That's got to be worth something.
So it's the value that you get from paying a little bit more, because, and it's not me saying you got to pay me to do this. It's the companies that pay me to do it for them.
So who are the three people that have been most influential in your career?
Jamie Pritchard.
Please.
The most influential in my career. Well, my father really did help me out a lot, like especially in the subway years, well, growing up, of course. And he's really helped a lot. Somebody who's become very influential in the last year or two has been Di Russell. She's turned my mind around to realize that a lot of things that we do as a human or as a person really we were programmed to do it. It's not really something that we want to do because, well, we're doing it.
Right.
It's something that like don't touch that. It's hot. Well, how hot is it? So a lot of people have been telling us these things, but it's really deep down inside that it's really not us.
Yeah.
So I've learned so much about myself, and that's what's got me into a lot more of this reading. The third person. Geez, wow. There's a lot of different people who's really helped me out. There's actually a mastermind group of people. There's about 6 of us that meet on a monthly basis up in Elmira. And a lot of them have been in the business for a long time. And it's just different. The people that, if any of us have a question, we just send it out. And then there's 6 or 7 answers within 24 hours that get sent to us.
Right.
So I think working with a group, and none of us work together. We all work for different companies. But we just get together and we have a conversation every month.
Okay.
And I think that group, that mastermind kind of group, has just been there to hold the fort and really give me a lot of good thoughts and good advice.
Very good. And has that made a difference in your business?
I think it's made a huge difference. It's funny with the subway days. I was the chairman of the Canadian Association of Franchisees, and we were on the food council and such. And I wanted to get something set up where there was a trade day every 3 months.
Right.
So you take 10 franchisees from the same area and say, okay, you're going to go and work at this person's store. You'll work at this person's store. You'll work at this person's store. And at 3:00, we'd all get together at a restaurant, have lunch, and talk about things that we see. Because when you go into the same place every day, you get blinders on. So I'll walk into the store one day and say, oh, look, there's a crack on the film of the Pepsi machine.
Yeah.
And then the next day I'll walk through it, and the next day I'll walk through it. And then after a week, I won't even notice it. So if the blinders come on, it's like you don't even see that. So you don't see a lot of other things.
Right.
And then if you have somebody else go in and you're willing to accept their thoughts and what they saw, they can say, I noticed that there's a crack on the film of the Pepsi machine. And you're like, oh, I've been wanting to do something about that, but forgot all about it. So you get the advice from other people, so other sets of eyes. It's like my favorite book that I've read on business was E-Myth Revisited. And if you've never read it, I'll lend it to you.
I have.
Okay. But it's the best thing. Like, just because you're a plumber doesn't mean you'll be good at running a plumbing business. Just because you're a baker doesn't mean you can be good at running a bakery business. But if you set your business up as if it can be repeatable and franchised, then you'll make things so much easier. And I always thought that was part of it, is having a second or third or fourth set of eyes just to, hey, maybe you should look at doing that.
Right.
And then acting upon it.
Fantastic. If you were in my shoes, what one question might you ask yourself that I haven't asked?
Why do these shoes hurt so much? Oh,
that's a good one. Okay.
Well, because I have size 13s, and I'm sure yours aren't quite.
Really? Okay. Well, that's a tough one. I was in the shoe industry. That's where I got my start. And I know that anything over a 13 can be really hard to find. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, and me growing up, every time, and it happened yesterday. Zoe and I went to buy a new pair of shoes for her. And I saw a really nice pair of shoes that were on sale for half price for me. And it's like, I need a new pair of running shoes.
Yeah.
And I asked the guy, I said, do you have these in 13? He's, nope. I said, well, tell me, what shoes do you have in 13? Well, I've got those ones. And those ones that were in 13s had like cobwebs and stuff on them for like 1997. So
Spider-Man.
Yeah. Woo! No, this is not going to work for me. So what question would I have asked you?
No. If you were in my shoes interviewing you,
yes,
What question would you ask yourself that I haven't already asked?
What drives me to do what I do?
What drives you? Okay, thanks, Trevor. What drives you to do what you do?
I want to create a future for my children and grandchildren that I'm proud of. So when I'm not gone, that they'll actually have a world that we can be in, and a world that's livable. So a lot of the things that I do really goes towards that. So that's one of my visions is to create a livable world for children and grandchildren. And then how do we do that? There's a lot of different ways we do it. But I think just by starting and helping people create visions and learn about themselves, and then going on that road and that pathway, I think is really a way that we can create a different world.
Wow.
And better world.
So you have a vision that even goes beyond your time here.
Oh yeah.
That's fantastic.
And beyond standing out in the grass in my bare feet.
In shorts and no sandals.
Right.
Last question. What does the spirit of business mean to you?
Spirit of business to me is doing whatever you can to make sure people succeed. And that's,
tell me more.
Well, I've got people that are involved in different direct marketing things, and I'll buy something from them rather than going to Walmart to buy something.
Right.
I want to help people succeed no matter what they're trying to do. Well,
exactly.
As long, except digging up grass in my backyard or something like that I don't want them to do. But I want people to succeed in what they're trying to do, because I think everybody has a dream and everybody has something that they've always really wanted to do. And I want to be able to get that out of them and say, why don't you do it? Like just because society says you need to do something one way doesn't mean we have to do it that way. Like society says, get good marks so you can get into a good college. So you can get into a good college, you can get a good job, and then you work hard at your job so you can get a raise and you can get promoted and get promoted and get promoted. And at 40 years old, you realize, what the heck am I doing? I've never wanted to do this.
Yeah.
So start young. Start learning what you want to do. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to get a job in the 9-to-5 world. Look at some of the happiest people you and I know.
Yes.
We're self-employed. We're not working 9-to-5 jobs. We're not driving down or taking the train to Toronto in the cattle car.
Yeah.
Just because society says we need to do it doesn't mean we have to do it. They say it's tradition. And I've been saying this, and I'll keep saying this. Tradition is just peer pressure from dead people.
I love that.
Kill tradition. Do something you want to do.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. It's really been a pleasure spending this time with you. Thank you for coming on the show, The Spirit of Business. And if people want to find you or get in contact with you, where can they go?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Jamie. I really appreciate it. The best thing to do to find me, my website is wrightwealth.ca, or we are on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook at Wright Wealth FS. So if you just go on there, do a search, and I think even if you just type Wright Wealth FS, it'll all come up on achievement too. So
fantastic. I'll have to have you over to stand on my grass and help me with my financial plan.
I can certainly help you out.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right. Thanks, Jamie.